Hi student, I am Dr. Shamim and I work as a professor in Amet Business School, Amet University. In today's class, we are going to have an insight on ratio analysis. To start with, let me explain to you what is meant by ratio analysis. Ratio analysis in simple terms is the establishment of a mathematical relationship between two accounting figures that are related to each other. I repeat, it is very important to ensure that the two accounting figures are related to each other. Only if they are related to each other, we would be able to arrive at logical conclusions. Okay. Now next, let us move on to seeing what are the classifications of ratios that are used by corporates in order to understand what is the direction in which the company or the business is progressing. Under this category of ratio analysis, the first one happens to be liquidity ratios. Now, these liquidity ratios would measure the ability of a business to make payments on current obligations or current liabilities as and when they arise. Okay, I think at this point of time, it will be good for us to quickly go through what is the long list of current assets. So, let us see what are the current assets in the order of liquidity. The most liquid of all current assets happens to be cash, which I mean cash in hand. This is followed by cash at bank. Next, we have marketable securities, which can also be called as short term or temporary investments. Then we have bills receivables. So, this is a bill of exchange on which the business has to receive money. Then we have our sundry debtors, people to whom we have sold goods on credit and who are going to pay us at the end of the credit period that we have sanctioned them. And then last but not the least, we have closing stock. And of course, if some payments have been made in advance this year with respect to the next year, that could also be taken as a current asset. So, last of all, I would like to add on one more, and that would be prepaid expenses. So, to quickly run through the long list again, we have cash in hand, cash at bank, marketable securities, which are otherwise called as short term or temporary investments. We have bills receivable, we have sundry debtors, we have closing stock, and last but not the least, we have prepaid expenses. Now, as I told you, liquidity ratios would measure the ability of a business to make payment on current obligations or current liabilities as and when they arise. So, that takes us on to looking at the long list of current liabilities. What are current liabilities? Current liabilities are those liabilities which have to be repaid within a maximum period of 1 year. So, let us see what is the list coming under current liabilities. 1, we have sundry creditors. 2, we have bills payable. These are bills of exchange on which this corporate has to make payment to its suppliers or to the vendors. Then we have short term loans that maybe have been taken by the company in order to tide over a temporary financial difficulty. Then we have got one more, which is going to be bank overdraft. Bank overdraft. I think we all know what is the meaning of bank overdraft. temporarily I am having a financial difficulty and I do not have the cash with me. So, what I can do is I can go to my banker and I can request him to sanction me this bank OD. As a result, I will be able to overdraw my account. Now, let us see what are the ratios that will come under this category of liquidity ratios. The first ratio that comes under the category of liquidity ratios is called as current ratio. It is called as the current ratio, and this current ratio establishes relationship between current assets on one hand and current liabilities on the other. Now, you might wonder what is the use of this current ratio. For example, if I am approaching a banker for getting a short term loan, the banker will surely not sanction the loan to me unless he has calculated the current ratio and he is impressed of the fact that I have an ideal current ratio, right. As I told you, current ratio establishes a relationship between current assets on one hand and current liabilities on the other, and an ideal current ratio is considered to be 2:1. So, for every 1 rupee of current liability the business owes, if it is going to have investment in current assets amounting to rupees 2, you can take it that this company is having a satisfactory or an ideal current ratio. Now, the second ratio that comes under this category is called as liquid ratio, or I could call it as the quick ratio, or I could call it as the acid test ratio. So, all the three mean the same: quick ratio, liquid ratio or acid test ratio. Now, this quick ratio or liquid ratio or acid test ratio will be establishing relationship between liquid assets on one hand and current liabilities on the other. So, on one hand it takes charge of the liquid assets, and on the other hand we have the current liabilities. Now, we have seen what are current assets and what are current liabilities. Now, let us move on to see what we mean by liquid assets. Now, liquid assets would constitute all current assets except the last two that I showed you in the long list. So, I will take it as liquid assets will be equal to current assets minus the last two, which will be my closing stock and prepaid expenses. So, it will be the closing stock plus prepaid expenses, if taken out of current assets, would constitute liquid assets, and an ideal liquid ratio is considered to be 1:1, which means for every 1 rupee of current liability the business owes, it has to own liquid assets of rupee 1. If this is the situation, you can take it that this company is having a satisfactory or an ideal liquid ratio. Now, let us move on to the third and the final ratio that is coming under this category of liquidity ratios. The third ratio that comes under liquidity ratios is called as the absolute liquid ratio. And this absolute liquid ratio establishes relationship between absolute liquid assets on one hand and current liabilities on the other. So, let us see, let us write down the definition. The formula: absolute liquid ratio is equal to absolute liquid assets divided by current liabilities. Now, that takes me to the question, what is meant by absolute liquid assets? Now, absolute liquid assets would constitute those assets which are more or less in the form where you can very easily convert them back into cash. So, that would include, for example, cash in hand, cash at bank and marketable securities. In other words, I can say liquid assets minus bills receivable and sundry debtors would constitute my absolute liquid assets. So, to quickly go through the three ratios that we have seen, the first one was current ratio, where we tried to establish a relationship between current assets and current liabilities. The second was called the liquid ratio, where we tried to establish relationship between liquid assets on one hand and current liabilities on the other. And the third is the absolute liquid ratio, where we establish relationship between absolute liquid assets on one hand and current liabilities on the other. Now, the ideal in this case, the ideal absolute liquid ratio will be 1:2, which means for every 2 rupees of current liability the business owes, it has to own absolute liquid assets of rupee 1. Fine. I think we will do a small numeric to understand the concept better. Now, we all know there is a concept called working capital. What is the meaning of working capital? Working capital means capital that is required to meet your day-to-day expenses. So, on a recurring basis, many expenses are being incurred by the business, and it is this working capital that will help the company to incur those costs or those expenses. Now, when we talk about working capital, there are two types of working capital, or I will call it as two concepts of working capital. One is called gross working capital and the other is called net working capital. Gross working capital would refer to the total investment that a firm makes in current assets. So, this is equal to total investment in current assets. Total investment in current assets made by a business would constitute the gross working capital. On the other hand, net working capital is defined as the excess of current assets, over current liabilities. And kindly note, it is only this concept of working capital that is popularly used. The concept of gross working capital is not made use of by companies, because apart from making investment in current assets, we already know, or we know that companies do enjoy current liabilities as sanctioned to them by the vendors or suppliers or others. Okay, let me assume my current ratio is equal to 2.5, my liquid ratio is equal to 1.5 and my net working capital is equal to rupees 3 lakhs. Now, given this information, very easily I can find out what will be my current assets, what will be my current liabilities, what will be my liquid assets, and I can also find out what will be the value of my inventory or stock. Okay, let us start. We all know net working capital is equal to current assets minus current liabilities. Now, to make my work simple, let me assume, let current liabilities be equal to x, then current assets will be equal to 2.5x. I think you will agree with me that my assumption is right, because 2.5x divided by x is giving me an answer of 2.5. So, I am assuming my current liabilities to be x and my current assets to be 2.5x. Now, let us start. We know current assets minus current liabilities is equal to net working capital. Now, I will not be able to find out or crack this problem unless I have an absolute figure. What is the meaning of an absolute figure? Anything that is given in terms of money in finance and accounting will be called as an absolute figure. Okay. So, let me do this now. 2.5x minus x. I have assumed my current assets to be 2.5x. So, I write 2.5x minus x is equal to rupees 3 lakhs. Therefore, 1.5x will be equal to rupees 3 lakhs. Now, I further simplify. I write x or current liability will be equal to rupees 3 lakhs divided by 1.5. So, that is equal to rupees 2 lakhs. So, I found out the first figure, which is current liabilities. Now, very easily I will be able to find out what will be the value of my current assets. So, I will write therefore, 2.5x or current assets will be equal to rupees 2 lakhs into 2.5. So, that will make it rupees 5 lakhs. So, very easily with this little information I have been able to find out what is the value of my current liabilities and what is the value of my current assets. Now, let me take up the next ratio, which happens to be the liquid ratio. Okay. Now, let us take up the next ratio, which is liquid ratio. So, it is given that liquid ratio is equal to 1.5, and I know this liquid ratio is equal to liquid assets divided by current liabilities. I know my liquid ratio, I know my current liabilities. So, very easily I can find out my liquid assets. So, I write 1.5 is equal to liquid assets divided by rupees 2 lakhs. Therefore, my liquid assets will be equal to rupees 3 lakhs. Now, in the process of explaining what are the current assets what are the assets that are taken for calculation of current ratio, what are the assets that are taken for calculation of liquid ratio, I told you stock and prepaid expenses are not included when we take into consideration liquid ratio. So, I can summarize and say current assets minus liquid assets is equal to stock or inventory plus prepaid expenses. Since there is no mention of prepaid expenses, I will conveniently assume this figure to be 0. I know my current assets to be rupees 5 lakhs and I know my liquid assets to be rupees 3 lakhs. Hence, my stock is rupees 2 lakhs. Stock will be equal to rupees 2 lakhs. So, this is how we go about in arriving at the required figures with the help of an absolute figure that is given. So, our starting point will be to look for that absolute figure. I repeat, absolute figure is a figure that is given in terms of money or in terms of rupees. So, let us next move on to the next category of ratios, which will be turnover ratios. So, the second classification will be turnover ratios. Turnover ratios can also be called as velocity ratios or current asset movement ratios, and these ratios will tell you how fast or with what speed, with what velocity current assets are being converted back into cash. There is something called as an operating cycle, and if I have to show you that, it will be like this. A business has cash in hand. This cash in hand will get converted into raw materials. Raw materials, when they are issued to the user department, will get converted into finished goods, and when these finished goods are sold on credit, they will get converted into accounts receivables, and when these guys pay me, I get back whatever I have invested in the business. So, I am going to see how long it is going to take for me to convert my stock or my debtors back into cash. The first ratio that we have to see under this category is called as stock turnover ratio. Stock turnover ratio or inventory turnover ratio. As I told you, this stock turnover ratio will indicate on an average number of times in a year that your stock is being converted back into cash, and the formula for the stock turnover ratio is equal to cost of sales divided by average stock. Now, since we are talking about how many times in a year my inventory is going to get converted back into cash, I think you will agree a higher ratio is any day preferable. If I am going to have a higher ratio, that shows that the operating cycle is being converted many times in a year or many times in a year, I have been very effective in converting my inventory back into cash. That means the time taken to convert it is shorter, which means more number of times I will be able to convert my inventory back into cash. Now, let us see what is the formula for this cost of sales. Cost of sales will be equal to net sales minus gross profit. What is the meaning of net sales? Net sales would constitute your total sales minus sales returns if any. In case one of your customers has returned goods, we would term it as sales returns, and from your total sales, if you take away the sales returns, that would constitute your net sales. Now, what is the meaning of this average stock? Average stock would include both opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2. So, it is opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2. Now, in line with the stock turnover ratio, there is another ratio which is called as inventory conversion period. Inventory conversion period, which talks about time taken to convert your inventory back into cash. This will tell you how many times in a year you are converting your inventory back into cash, and this ratio will tell you how long it is taking for you to convert once your inventory back into cash, and the formula for this will be number of days in a year divided by inventory or stock turnover ratio. For example, if I am converting 12 times my inventory back into cash in a year, I will assume assuming number of days in a year are 360 divided by 12, the period that it is taking for me once to convert my inventory back into cash will be 30 days. Let us quickly do a numerical example to further understand this concept. Let me assume my stock turnover ratio is equal to 10 times and gross profit is equal to 20%, and the problem says closing stock is rupees 10,000 more than opening stock. and the problem also tells you that your gross profit is rupees 40,000. Now, given this information, let me see how I can calculate 1 my cost of goods, cost of sales, 2 my average inventory, and the third one opening inventory, and the fourth one closing inventory. Right. We all know the highest figure will be net sales, and that is always taken to be equal to 100%. Now, if my gross profit is equal to 20% from the formula that I wrote earlier, you would be able to understand my cost of sales will be equal to how much? It will be equal to 80%. Now, I know what is this gross profit. Gross profit is 20% and it amounts to rupees 40,000. Therefore, very easily I can find out what is my cost of sales. If 20% is equal to 40,000, 100% will be equal to 2 lakhs and this 80% will be equal to 1,60,000. So, I have got my cost of sales. Now, I know stock turnover ratio is equal to cost of sales divided by average inventory. Now, this 10 is equal to rupees 1,60,000 divided by average inventory. Now, therefore, I am able to arrive at the average inventory. My average inventory figure is equal to rupees 16,000. Very simple calculation which helps you to arrive at your average inventory. And I know my average inventory is equal to opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2. So, this average inventory is rupees 16,000 and it is equal to opening stock. Now, if I write closing stock, I will not be able to solve it. So, I write opening stock plus 10,000, the whole thing divided by 2. Now, cross multiply, rupees 32,000 will be equal to 2 opening stock plus 10,000. Therefore, 2 opening stock will be equal to rupees 22,000. My opening stock will be equal to rupees 11,000 and my closing stock, problem says my closing stock is 10,000 rupees more than opening. So, it will be opening stock plus 10,000. So, that will be rupees 11,000 plus 10,000. So, that will make it 21,000. So, I hope you understand how I have been able to arrive at not only the opening stock, but also the closing stock, because the problem very categorically tells me my closing stock is 10,000 rupees more than my opening. Now, we can do one more category of ratio that comes under this heading, and that will be my debtors turnover ratio. That will be my debtors turnover ratio, where I am trying to find out how many times in a year I sell on credit to my debtors. Now, this debtors turnover ratio will come into the picture only when I make credit sales. If the company does not sell on credit and all cash sales are being made by it, the concept of debtors does not come into the picture. So, the formula for this debtors turnover ratio will be net credit annual sales divided by sundry debtors. Now, in the previous example that I worked out, let me assume that this company is selling all goods on credit, and hence I found out my total sales to be rupees 2 lakhs. So, 2 lakhs divided 2 lakhs is my, let me assume, my sales figure, and the debtors turnover ratio is given to be, let me assume, 8 times. What is the meaning of this debtors turnover ratio? 8 times in a year I am able to convert my debtors back into cash, or 8 times in a year I sell on credit to my customers. Therefore, I will be able to find out what will be the value of my debtors or sundry debtors. That will be rupees 2 lakhs divided by 8, and my answer would be how much? It will be 25,000. So, this is the value of your debtors. Now, another ratio that is associated with debtors turnover ratio is called the average collection period. Now, this average collection period will tell you time taken by your debtors to make payment for the credit sales that you have made to them. Of course, the average collection period to a great extent would depend upon the credit period that you sanction them. For example, if I have given them a credit period of 30 days, I cannot expect them to pay me before the expiry of the 30 days. Right, let me tell you what is the formula for this. It will be number of days in a year divided by debtors turnover ratio. So, in this case, my debtors turnover ratio was 8 times, number of days in a year is 360, 360 divided by 8 will give you a period of 45 days. So, once I have sold on credit, I have to wait for a period of 45 days before I can expect to receive payments to come in from my debtors for the credit sales that I have made. Another interesting ratio that comes under the heading of turnover ratios is called the creditors turnover ratio. Just like how I sell on credit, on the other hand, I could be buying on credit from my suppliers or vendors. Now, the period that I take to pay them for the credit sales that they have made to me would depend upon the credit period that they have sanctioned me. Now, creditors will come into the picture only when I make credit purchases. So, the formula for this credit turnover ratio will be net credit annual purchases divided by sundry creditors. Most of the time you will find in the problem the purchases figure cannot be found out very easily, and it is only with the help of this formula you will be able to arrive at the value of the purchases made by a company, and it would be cost of sales plus closing stock minus opening stock. So, this purchases figure can be found out with the help of this formula, which says purchases is equal to cost of sales plus closing stock minus opening stock. Now, if I were to continue further with the example that I gave you, my cost of sales was rupees 1,60,000, my closing stock was 21,000 and my opening stock was 11,000. Therefore, the purchases figure is rupees 1,70,000. Now, let us assume this creditors turnover ratio is given to be 10 times. What is the meaning of this 10 times? It tells me that 10 times, on an average 10 times in a year, I buy on credit from my suppliers. Now, this 10 will be equal to rupees 1,70,000 divided by sundry creditors. Therefore, my sundry creditors would be equal to rupees 17,000. Now, the last ratio that we have to see under this category is called the average payment period. This tells you how long your suppliers have to wait before they can expect to receive money for the credit sales that they have made, and the formula will be number of days in a year divided by creditors turnover ratio. So, number of days in a year, I will assume it to be 360, my creditors turnover ratio is 10. So, the number of days is 36 days. Now, if I have to make a comparison between debtors turnover ratio and creditors turnover ratio, I will say a lower debtors turnover ratio, a lower average collection period is better, but when it comes to average payment period, it has to be higher. That will help me to have a better understanding of whether the business is doing a business in a more effective way or not very effective. In today's class, to sum up, I should say that in today's class we have seen what is the meaning of ratio analysis, and we have seen two classification of ratios. One is liquidity ratios, under which we saw something about the current ratio, the liquid ratio and the absolute liquid ratio. Then we went on to seeing something about the turnover ratios, where we had an insight about the stock turnover ratio, the stock conversion period, debtors turnover ratio, average collection period, the creditors turnover ratio and the average payment period. I hope you found it interesting. Thank you very much.